let's get to what happened over the weekend, especially how it affects the Vols and affects the SEC. It's brought to you in part by the Hemp House, a premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to hemphousechat with 2ts.com, hemphousechat with 2ts.com, and you can use the promo code HOOK to get 10% off. Oklahoma suffers the weekend's biggest upset loss this time last year. You're talking about, would Josh Heupel go to Oklahoma? There's a lot of reasons not, but I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you want Brent Venables just to chug along at about 9 wins so that he holds on to that job, and Oklahoma never comes calling for Josh Heupel. Listen, the two parties don't get along. It's not going to happen, but Oklahoma will be in the conference, so you don't want them to be elite either. So I thought that was good news for Tennessee.
I don't think it matters for Tennessee because I don't think it matters. Look, the conferences are so big now; it doesn't matter if other programs are elite in the conference, particularly as far apart as Tennessee and Oklahoma are. But Josh Heupel is not going to Oklahoma as long as they are tied to Bob Stoops, and I can tell you guys
How are
that
they
right
that
now.
far apart, though?
Because all of the elite teams are going to be in 2 conferences next year.
Well, no, but I'm asking you how you said Oklahoma and Tennessee are that far apart. I don't think they're that far apart.
I meant geographically.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They're not recruiting the same players.
Yeah, okay, I got that. I thought you meant just in terms of teams and what they're fielding this year. Big 12 in danger of missing the college football playoff. I just got to give the Big 12 credit for putting together a conference and being able to continue it on. I mean, at this point, it looks like the SEC, the Big 10, and everybody else. But you're right; they definitely could miss the college football.
They're the only
playoff.
conference without an undefeated team now at this point, and first rankings come Tuesday. And so right now, the Big 12 is going to need some help after that Oklahoma game.
Oregon gets the best win of college football playoff contenders as they beat Washington.
No, they beat Utah.
Or Utah, excuse me.
That's my mayonnaise game. And for those who don't know, I picked the over in that game. I didn't know that that Utah would only score 6 points.
Why again are you not doing that today? Mayonnaise in the coffee?
I didn't have the coffee ready.
Okay, multiple college football playoff contenders suffer the second loss in some wild upsets. I think we're starting to see the cream rise to the top or the mayo slide to the bottom of the coffee cup.
Yeah, along with Utah losing, you saw Oregon State get upset by Arizona. Arizona had been knocking on the door for a while and finally pulled off a win. And then you saw North Carolina, a second straight bad loss, this time to Georgia Tech. And you're right, they just don't have the depth to go a whole season. That's pretty much it.
Georgia and Michigan still have proven nothing. I agree. I think those are the 2 best football teams in the country, but I can't argue with you that they've proven something. Washington
schedules.
Yeah, just terrible. Washington survives. Ohio State wins. Florida State dominates. Louisville. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are the 3 teams that, I think right now have the best resumes far and away of anybody.
Louisville, Ole Miss won't go away. That is very true, especially with the Rebels. And
Louisville proved me wrong. I had Duke winning money line this weekend, and Louisville just blows out Duke 23-0.
Yep. And 3 undefeated group of 5 teams remain. One possibly could have been a quarterback at Tennessee. I'm just saying.
Do you see any James Madison can't go to a postseason, and Liberty is just in too bad of a conference. But if a service academy goes undefeated, man, it looks bad if you keep a service academy out of the playoff, right, Dave?
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that just for the storyline and content.
Yeah.
So the top 10, you've got Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Let me take a second glance at that to see if I've got any major disagreements. Well, I view it different. I go with the eye test. So I'm not saying you're wrong in what they've accomplished because that's what I would imagine you're basing this off of. But off the eye test, I would have probably Michigan 1 and Georgia 2 if I were an AP voter.
Eye test to me eye test to me is a tiebreaker for resume, but resume matters most. And the reason is I think of all I ever go back to, Dave. I stopped doing eye tests in 2005 with the Tyrone Prothro injury. Remember Mike Shula when kept Protho in the game when he shouldn't have, and Protho suffered a career-ending injury, all because I think Alabama was still undefeated and was hoping they could maybe surpass USC or Texas in 1 and 2. I think eye test just has completely. I think it is so dangerous to the sport to have eye test.
Travis says Hooker loves Penix. No, I don't necessarily. I think Tennessee would be better off with him and the Liberty quarterback and
Kaidon Salter.
And the kid.
2 undefeated quarterbacks who were at Tennessee, or 1 committed and 1 was actually on Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
And
as far as the Heisman race, I would vote for Michael Penix, and I have a vote right now. But I really dive deep into this. So nobody wins the Heisman in September or October. It's all about what you do in November. Jordan Travis, number 2. Yes.
If you vote for Michael Penix and then he wins, you have to clap because Hooker claps for Penix. Sorry.
It's great. Michael Penix, number 1, Jordan Travis, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and then Caleb Williams. And I'll be honest with you, it probably shouldn't factor into my vote. But all this Caleb Williams talk about Tennessee, I'm sorry, not about Tennessee, but all this talk about him trying to manipulate the draft process, and maybe Lincoln Riley wants to be a professional coach and he's not going to do so unless somebody drafts Caleb Williams. I'll be honest with you, that shouldn't affect my Heisman vote, but that, along with the vulgarities he had on his taped fingers last year, that can be a deciding factor in my mind, Caleb. If I'm down 50-50 between one player and another, you get 3 votes. It will affect my decision as far as if it's close, and it might affect him too. I mean, Caleb Williams just, I don't know, man. He just doesn't. He seems like the anti-Hendon Hooker, in that Hendon Hooker was such a great leader. I mean, am I being too hard on the guy?
Is Caleb Williams basically going the There's 2 other Heismans that he reminds me of, which is Johnny Manziel and Jameis Winston. Both won the Heismans, and then both gotten and I'm not talking about Jameis Winston's charges. I'm leaving that alone. I'm talking about the way we know he behaved afterward the next year. Same with Johnny Manziel. Rubbed so many people the wrong way. You know, Johnny Manziel won the Heisman over a very, very classy Manti Te'o who had just the most tragic story of all time. Sorry.
Yeah, it's terrible. The made-up girlfriend.
But yeah, Caleb Williams could be that. I think what bothers me with Caleb Williams, I'm with you. Look, you may know this. There's some people who think the trainer incident cost Peyton Manning the Heisman in '97. There are a lot of rumors, people who think that whole lawsuit against University cost Peyton Manning.
No, I feel pretty confident that was fatigue over Peyton Manning, and that ESPN tried to prop up a Big Ten guy to make people watch the show. Little do we realize it doesn't matter if people watch the Heisman ceremony. I mean, the bottom line is you read about it in the paper the next day, or you watch the last 3 minutes of it. Who sits through that whole thing? Holy
Nobody.
Lord. I mean, holy good gravy. If you sit through that whole thing, I consider myself a pretty big college football fan. I mean, Lord, I've dedicated my life to it. But I mean, if you sit through the whole Heisman ceremony, you are insane, because at that point, you know, something on the message board made me laugh. At that point, you know that you know everything about these players. I mean, there's never anything where something comes out. Maybe last year with the TCU kid that I can't remember his name because they weren't covered as much preseason. Max Potter, was that his name?
No, Max
Duggins.
Duggan.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Caleb, I'm going to chide you and chide me as well, because we were very insensitive, and you said something I thought very insulting about Manti Te'o's made-up girlfriend, and she passed away. That made-up girlfriend passed away. So for you to be hard on a young lady who never existed and passed away is totally unfair. And I'm going to talk to the powers that be at Off the Hook Sports, and you might be in line for a suspension. I'm just going to say, because you absolutely ripped a lady who passed away but never existed.
Oh, I know. I feel so awful about that.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is, I don't know. You stoop low sometimes, but to to talk about a young lady who has died but never existed is disgusting. Peyton Manning, what do you think of it?
They're like, that is total bullshit.
Yes. Yes. Extra mayo in the coffee for Caleb. David Michael saying that is so. I'm trying. He says that's so wrong, Dave. I'm trying to keep Caleb in line. And Caleb even is getting criticism from Peyton Manning.
They're like, that is total bullshit.
I mean, the girl didn't exist and is dead now.
I apologize. I apologize to the non-existent dead girl.
What about her non-existent family? Are you going to apologize to them?
Sure, bring them on the show. Bring them on the show. I will apologize to the non-existent family one by one.
OTH has morals, says Smoky Mountain Red. What about her parents and her imaginary brother and sister that never existed? And all of those people that were so torn up.
I think she grew up with only imaginary brothers.
Was she an imaginary only child?
No, she had some imaginary brothers.